that we're going to look at where we're going to have to
So
divide
let's take a
crackers
look
just like
at
Juan
what we have
into
going on
equal
this
parts.
page here.
So we're going to do it
start our
together
math lesson that we're going to be doing
because
together,
this is new to
splitting things
us.
into
We're not
equal shares.
able to do this in front of each
So
other. I'm not able
You're
to
going to be given a
sitting with
cracker
you and
very
helping
similar
you.
to
So
the
we're going
one
to work
that
through it
Juan
together,
had, and we're going to be asked
we are going to come up
divide
with
it or
names for
split
those
it
parts like we
into
did
equal parts.
yesterday. We're
So I
going
want us
to
to look
think
at
about
these
what do we
first to
name
show us
when we
what
have
we
2
can
parts,
do and what
3
we
parts,
cannot
and
do.
4 parts.
So this first one
All
here,
right, I will
this is
see you
a
in our next
line
video for our
segment.
explorations.
It's a part of a line, and this one does not connect the dots. So we want to make sure we're using these dots. We want to draw our lines across the dots. So we would not draw like this because it's in between the dots. Then we have this line segment here, which is a diagonal one. We're not going to be using diagonal line segments either. It's a tongue twister, diagonal line segments. But these two down here, this would be perfectly fine. These line segments connect the dots properly. So this goes straight across, giving us 2 equal parts. This one goes up, across, and then up again, also giving us 2 equal parts with 3 little squares in each one. All right, so let's work on this together. All right, so we're going to be sharing crackers, and this is what our explorations looks like. You're going to pretend that you're sharing a cracker on the page that I'm going to show you next. We're going to use the dots to help us draw the line segments to divide the crackers, no diagonal lines, and then we're going to name the parts of the crackers. We can think about those posters from yesterday. So if we think about when we had 2 equal parts, we would call that 1/2 or 1 out of 2 parts. When we have 3 equal parts, we could call that 1/3 or 1 out of 3 equal parts. And then when we had 4 equal parts, we said we had 1/4, 1/4, or 1 out of 4. All right, so let's take a look at our first one. So this is what the page would look like if you were working on this in class. We're going to be doing it together. So we're going to divide this cracker below into 2 equal parts. All right. So I have these dots that I want to use, and there's a couple different ways that we can do it, but we'll start with the simplest way first. So we're going to take our line and we're going to draw it connecting these dots here. All right. So that's 2 equal parts right there. We have the first part up here has 1, 2, 3 little squares, and we have this part down here has 1, 2, 3 little squares. Right? So that is 3 little squares for one person and 3 little squares for the other person. We have now split that into 2 equal parts. Another way we could do it, which they just showed us, they showed us on the last page. Let's get those out of the way there, is we could get a little fancy. Right? So we can take our line and we can go from here to here. We can go from here to here, and we can go from here to here, giving us still 1, 2, 3 little squares, 1, 2, 3 little squares. Right. Let's take a look again, right, at how it makes those squares. So there's 1 little square here. Right. Then we can take another color just to show us that there's another little square here. And then a third color to show us that there's another little square here. Okay, so that gives each of those 2 people equal parts. So now what we want to do is we want to name that one part. So if I have 1 out of 2 parts, I can say 1 out of 2 parts. Or we can say we have 1/2. Right? So those would be 2 names that we could give to this one part right here. How do we know that they're equal parts? Well, I think we just explained it when we put these colors in here. We know that they're equal parts because they each get 3 little squares. 3 little squares and 3 little squares. All right, perfect. Let's move down here. We're going to now divide this cracker into 2 equal parts. So let's get our line ready again. Okay, and I'm going to choose this smaller one. Go back to our color black. All right, so now I need to do this one into 2 equal parts. Let's count how many squares there are. This is 1 square,
2 squares, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. So I want to give each person 3 squares again. So that's 1, 2, 3. So I can draw a line here, and I can draw a line here. Right? So that gives 3 and 3. So this is now split into two equal parts. And it doesn't look like it because this one is a long rectangle and this one is kind of an L shape, but it doesn't matter the shape of them. It just matters how many of those little squares are inside of it. Right? So I'm going to use those colors again because I think those colors are really helpful, right, to see those little squares that we make. So here is one little square. Change the color. Here is another square. And here is the third square. Right? And I can see I also have those 3 squares here. So yes, these are equal parts because they're each getting the same amount of those little squares. And what are we going to name that part? We're going to name it the same thing we did on the above one. Since it's still 2 equal parts, we can say 1 out of 2 parts, or we can say 1/2, right? And then it asks us, how do we know that we have equal parts? Draw or write it. Well, we did. We colored it in, right? We colored this in. That's 1, 2, 3. We could also color those in to show 1, 2, 3. 2 equal parts, right? Excellent. Let's go ahead to our next one. Right, so this one, they want us to divide this cracker into 3 equal parts, but to do it differently than Juan did in the math message. Well, that should be easy because he did it a very unique way, and he left us a way to do it very easily. So we're going to get our lines ready. Right, and I'm going to see, all right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little squares. But it looks like when I look at this, I can just so easily see how to split it into 3 equal parts. I can do a line there, and I can do a line there. So I have 1, 2, 3 equal parts. Or, right, I can take those lines, get them out of there. And another way we could do it is we can go from top to bottom. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right? And we also again have 1, 2, 3 parts. So now it wants us to name all the parts. So what was the name for all of the parts? When I want to name all of the parts, because there's 3 equal parts, there's a couple different names that we could come up with. The easiest one, right, is whole, the whole thing. We could say 3 out of 3 parts. We also could say 3/3. Any of those would be correct. I always like to go with just the word whole. It's easy to remember. We're talking about the whole thing. So now draw or write. How do you know that these parts are equal? Well, we can go back to using those colors again. Right? We can look and see, does everybody have the same amount? Let's see, 1 square here, right? 1 square here, and 1 square here. So they all get a red square. Then we can take purple. 1 purple square for this one. 1 purple square for this one. And 1 purple square for this one. Okay. And then we have our blue. A blue for this person. A blue for you. Right? And a blue for them. So they each are getting 3 little squares in their part. They're each getting a purple, a red, and a blue. So that's how we know all of those parts are equal. All right. And this one down here is our last one. This is a try this. All right. We're going to divide these crackers below into 3 equal parts, but in 2 different ways. Whew. All right. Let's see. First step, let's count all of the little squares in the inside. 1 little square, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Now, this one up here also had 9. And when I split it into 3 equal parts, each person got 3 little squares because 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. So we're looking for giving each person 3 little squares. Let's do it. Okay. I'm going to give this person 1, 2, 3 little squares. I'm going to draw a line here. All right, now how are we going to do this next person? 1, 2, 3 little squares. I'm going to draw a line here, and I'm going to draw a line here. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Looks good to me. What do you think? Perfect. All right, let's take a look at this one. Now, this one we have to do a little bit differently, so we're going to draw a line a little bit differently here. Let's do 1, 2, 3. So let's draw a line here. Let's draw a line here. And let's draw a line here. Right? Actually, I don't like that line, so we're going to move that guy out of the way here. It's a little too crooked for me. All right, so let's try again. So we're going to do this one here. Perfect. 1, 2, 3. Now this one. 1, 2, 3. Go here and go here. Perfect. And 1, 2, 3. All right, so do you agree? Does this one also broken into 3 equal parts? This one gets 3 squares, this person gets 3 squares, and this person gets 1, 2, 3 squares. Excellent. So when you look at it at first, you say, Miss Cottrell, I don't think so, right? This one is a rectangle and this one's a rectangle, but this one's an L shape. And this one, they are all the same shape. This is L going this way. This is upside down L. This is L facing the other way. But no matter how you look at it, they're all getting 3 pieces, right? They're getting 3 little squares within their part. And what would we name this part? Same thing we named the ones above. We would use our thirds, right? So we would say 1/3 or 1 out of 3 parts, right? And that would be our name for those. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to see what I can find for you to do a little bit more practice with this, and I will link it next to our videos. Thank you so much for hanging in there and paying attention and listening. I wish that we could be together doing it, but this is the best that we have, and I really appreciate all your hard work and your focus. You guys are awesome.